able now to participate throughout the whole program. I'm very glad to see my colleagues here, especially those from ACWC and ACMW. First, I'd like to underscore two issues. First is the horrifying number or statistics that our colleagues from ILO and IOM have told us. 56% of forced labor are in Asia Pacific, and there is a huge intra-regional migrant flow within this region. Secondly, I'd like to start by saying that we are facing the difficulty of overlapping of substances of the issues between an interrelatedness, I have to say, of migration, trafficking, human rights, crime, forced labor, social welfare. These are interrelated. So I think I would urge that you don't look at them in silo. They interlink in some way or another, and they have to be looked in a holistic manner. I have two reflections to make, one from the national perspective and the other from the regional perspective. I will start from the national perspective, and I have 5 points to make on the national perspective. Number one, in terms of trafficking. Trafficking can occur to anyone. You can be asylum seeker, you can be refugees, you can be economic migrant, or you can simply be a national. Trafficking can occur to you, regardless of your status. But you will be more vulnerable if you are, one, stateless, two, undocumented person, three, if you are women or you are children, you are more likely, you are more vulnerable to being trafficked. I think that's a fair statement to make. Number two, in terms of legal response from, and I'm talking from the Thai perspective, I would add to what Thomas just said, and I would underscore the fact that in terms of legal framework, we still have a room for development. When we talk about law, of course, we talk about the sufficiency of the efficacy of the framework and also enforcement as two sides of the same coin. But I would start by looking at this efficacy of the law itself, and I would argue that at the moment we still find room for development. We have a number of laws pertaining to trafficking. First of all, people disregard the fact or neglect the fact that when you talk about trafficking, you need to talk about the underlying legislation, which is immigration. And in Thailand, when we talk about immigration, we talk about the three principles. One, detention. Two, investigation. And three, deportation. And these three core principles of Thai immigration law, I think they are the same with general immigration law as well, has brought about a number of pertinent or incidental issues, such as when you detain people, you separate family members and you put them in overcrowded facilities. That treatment, and we have the presumption of innocence, but in Thailand I think we are faced with a number of issues, about how to treat these people. We don't put them in jail, we don't put them in correctional facility, we put them in immigration detention center, which is already overcrowded. And the condition is very poor, I have to say. Number two, we have anti-trafficking legislation, which is based on one, prosecution, and two, rehabilitation, or in the modern jargon, reintegration. Number three, we need to talk about the laws pertaining to migrant workers. And in Thailand, there is no specific law on migrant workers. We only have international or bilateral agreements between our neighboring countries. And at the moment, we only have 3 agreements between Laos, Myanmar, and Cambodia. And they are based on 2 principles. One is verification or identification, and the other is temporary stay. By the way, I have to stress that migrant workers, their right to work are viewed as privilege rather than right. I'll touch upon this later on. At the moment, there is no law on asylum seekers or refugees who are very vulnerable to being trafficked. My third point is that trafficking problem is still seen as belonging to national territory, and raising awareness of the issue has been said to encroach on internal affairs of the relevant countries, not least Thailand. And we are very sensitive to trafficking from the US ranking as maintaining the ranking of Thailand as on the third tier, the only country in ASEAN region that is maintained at that lowest rank possible, and the IUU report from the European Union. The result of these two reports, either concrete measures or embargo, will occur in October. So we are very excited about the upcoming result in October. And I have to say that when trafficking is seen as belonging to national territories, the incidental issue is that the TIP report by the US government that examines country-specific situation, it in a way arguably helped exacerbate the national context and the non-regionalization of the issue. My fourth point is mindset of the country toward migrant workers. I have to say that people in the host country, I'm talking about Thailand now, consider migrant workers not as helpers or contributors, but as burden. They are a burden to the economy, they are a burden to the healthcare system, and they are also a risk to our well-being, a risk to our health system. Migrant workers can also be abused or discriminated with impunity. That's what I think. Number 5, we have a new development which is of great concern, at least to me personally, which is the development of special economic zone on the border provinces of Thailand. I have looked into the detail and with alarming concern that we will be developing this competitive region by using migrant workers and pay them less than what we pay Thai workers. So being competitive shouldn't mean that you are going to base your competitiveness on human rights violation. That is my reflection from the national level. From the regional level, and I think that I can speak from the AICHR perspective as well on this, I have two reflections from the regional level. One on the structure of ASEAN, and the other from the standard, they are based on S. From the structure, I think we are faced with difficulty on dealing with these seemingly separate issues, but they are interrelated. ASEAN itself is based on silo as well. We are based on free communities. And being pillarized, it is very difficult to mainstream human rights across the 3 pillars. Of course, trafficking is dealt with by SOMTC. But that's only trafficking. What about the human rights perspective of trafficking? Would SOMTC be considering this as well? I would use the example of another matter, which is on legal aid. When legal aid, issues pertaining to legal aid are raised in ASEAN, people would ask, what do they belong? Whether they belong to the justice area or they belong to human rights? Because if they belong to the justice area, they should be considered by ASLOM. But if they are human rights issue, they should be considered by the likes of AICHR or ACWC. I think that's very silo mentality. It's not conducive to tackling the issue. And I think we are dealing with that issue as well here on trafficking. Secondly, the placement of trafficking is also an issue. Just the same with cross-cutting issues like environment, migration, and human rights in general. Where should they be placed? Earlier on this year, Malaysia proposed to have a 4th pillar of cross-cutting issues, but they are not successful. So our challenge in the ASEAN region now is how to mainstream these cross-cutting issues, and we're talking about trafficking here, across the 3 pillars of ASEAN. ASEAN is developing its new Vision 2025. Secondly, I stand before you at lunch, so I'll just spare me a couple more minutes. On standard, I think this is very important. We are going to see a new standard in this region on trafficking, and that's being developed by SOMTC. Of course, all ASEAN member states are parties to international protocol on trafficking. So it is of my concern and concern of my AICHR colleagues to see how do we add on. Because when you subscribe already to international standards and you want to establish or develop regional standards, the point is, what are you doing? Instead of just reinforcing your own obligations, you are creating your regional standard. What's inside those standards? Are they better? Do they add on? Do they have value added to the existing international standard? I think this is what people would like to see in the newly developed standard on trafficking to be discussed. And on this, I would like to say that my colleagues, we have one here from the Philippines, Ambassador Manalo. The other one will be coming to join you tomorrow, Professor Jami of Indonesia. They are very passionate about trafficking and migration. So we are trying to liaise and coordinate with SOMTC on how we can actually infuse the ideas, the notions and concept of human rights into the development of these regional standards on trafficking. I think this is the challenge that we would like to see, tackle rather. I would like to, and those are my reflections, I would like to end by adding one more information. And I look at this with interest, what Ambassador Ong said earlier about internet. I would say that it is actually technology that could help us tackle trafficking. Early on, I think the US government has funded an activity that was held in Thailand on the role of technology in combating trafficking about a couple of months ago. That was very interesting. And I also would like to tap into that kind of knowledge. And representative from Microsoft also told me that technology can also help integrate, upgrade living conditions of people with disabilities. That is of my interest. And also pertinent to our discussion is how technology such as big data can help combat the trafficking in persons as well. I just read about in the news about this organization called Polaris based in Washington DC and how they use Google Maps to tackle trafficking in persons. So I think it would be of your interest as well if you discuss about this. So those are my reflections, Jennifer. Thank you very much for your attention.